Welcome to Blind Heroes. Today, we're going to talk about SSH Key Pairs. Security is at the top of our agenda. And we're going to use SSH Keys for FTP, file transfer protocol, connecting to a website or connecting to a server for transferring files. Also, we're going to use an SSH key to create a brand new GitHub repository. Now, neither one of these lessons are about SFtp, Git, or GitHub. They're going to cover only these items as a surface item only. So we're not going to go into great detail. All right. So without further ado, I'll begin. My name is Lewis Wood, and I have 30 years of software programming experience. And I became blind to the point of where I could not work about 10 years ago. And I learned how accessibility works. And now I've found products that are more accessible, and the world's changing. And here I'm back. And I had to learn all this stuff. And I just recently learned this SSH keys, and I wanted to share it so I could shorten your learning curve and help all my blind veteran people get out there and hit the ground, start running. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin. All right.
Control Windows left arrow, desktop 2, Lewis Wood /
Now for this tutorial and this walkthrough, I have created a GitHub repository. Now I purposely on the README file on the GitHub repository left a heading 4 at the very top of the file so that I can get to it right away.
No more headings at level 4 in section.
Okay.
Lewis Wood / SSH SFTP Git blind public heading level 1, readme.md heading level 2, SSH start of readme.md file. No more headings at level 4 in section. Lewis Wood / SSH Lewis Wood / S heading level 1 SSH implementation.
There it is. That's the top of the README file that we're going. Now I've created this repository, and this repository will have sample files and stuff. It's probably not necessary, but it just gives a place to store this main README file actually. But I do put Git configuration files for Git and of SSH, and I even put a couple sample SSH keys inside this repository. Okay, that way I can show you how it gets implemented and how it gets generated. Okay, now I'm going to be using a Linux command prompt. This can be on Windows, and this can also be on Macintosh using their extended things. Okay, then without further ado, let's begin. We'll go to the Linux command prompt.
Control Windows left arrow, desktop 1, Control Windows right arrow, desktop 2, heading level 1.
I'm going to show you how you guys can do this to follow along if you want to do everything with me as I go. I'm going to do a Control L.
Control L, Lewis Wood / SSH SFTP copied.
Okay, I copied the address line for this GitHub. Okay, I did that because I'm going to clone it using the HTTPS. Later, we're going to convert this to an SSH. Okay.
Control Windows left arrow, desktop 1.
All right. Now I'm at the command prompt.
Enter, widget Lewis -i9 / projects $.
Okay, you see I'm in my projects folder. All right. Now what I'm going to do is the command I'm going to give is git,
git space
clone,
CLONE.
Okay.
Space.
And then I'm going to go ahead and paste it.
Control Shift V, https://github.com/Lewis. Enter, cloning into -SSH SFTP -git -line ... remote : enumerating objects : 12, done, remote : counting objects : 100% left paren 12/12 right paren.
Okay, it's pretty small, so don't take long. Okay, so it should have created it already. So let's just go ahead and we'll go inside of it.
CD space SS H-SFTP -git -line.
I'm just pressing a tab key and it completes it. I just started SS and pressed that, and that's Linux.
Enter, widget Lewis -i9 : /.
Now I'm inside the folder. And right now, if I do this, see, I'll do git remote.
GIT space REMOTE space dash V.
Now this will give just tell me what the status of it
Enter.
is.
Origin https://github.com/lewis/ssh.
See, it's pointing to HTTPS. We don't want that. In fact, we want to reconfigure this GitHub because I'm going to create a whole new GitHub from it anyway and do everything. So I'm going to disconnect it from GitHub totally. I'm going to disconnect it from being a Git also. So see, there's a hidden file.
EXPLO red.exe space period enter widget Lewis -i9:/
There's a hidden file.
top items view list box. To move to an item, press the arrow key. .git 1 of 5.
It's .git, .git. That's actually your repository right there. And usually it's kind of hidden, so I have it so it reveals it.
.ssh 2 of 5.
Okay, and I have a subfolder called .ssh, which we'll be explaining in detail.
.gitconfig 3 of 5.
And then the sample config file.
License 4 of 5.
There's a license, so it's public. You guys can do whatever you want with it.
readme.md 5 of 5.
And then the readme file, which that's what we're going to be covering. Okay, now.
Alt F6.
Okay, I close.
Escape. License 4 of 5. Alt F4 widget Lewis
There
dash.
we go. I closed it. The Explorer window, so you don't have to look at that. That's Explorer, period. Okay. Now we're going to be here. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the Git because I cloned it using HTTPS, which I don't want to keep it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and now do this.
SUDO space RM space dash R space period GIT.
Okay, now when I ask this, it's going to ask for my password because that's what Linux does. And so I will be pausing the video and catching you on the other side.
Enter left bracket sudo right bracket password for wood colon.
There we go. The recording continued on. I just did the Git and it's gone, or at least it should be, which will.
LS. Enter license readme.md widget Lewis -i9:/ project /ssh SFtp -git line $.
See, it's not there. Okay, now we got rid of that. Now, let's explain SSH. SSH is a pair of keys. Okay, they're digital keys. So, and it's the value that's inside the files that's important. Okay, now they have a naming convention. So that way the one that you put on the server has the .pub extension, meaning public. So PUB. So, and the one that you keep on your local device has no extension. And that's the traditional naming convention. All right. Now you can name the file, the base part, anything you want. Now the default, they name it by the encryption that it is. Okay. But you can name it anything you want, and it doesn't have to agree with your computer name, but it should be a name that you identify that particular device that you're attaching it to. But they don't have to be attached to a device either. They could be attached to like a company. Let's say I work for 5 different corporations or companies and I have SSH keys for each one of them. Then I would, of course, name my SSH key, the private portion of it, to the name that I needed. Okay, in order to associate it. All right. And then I would create a SSH host thing. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the subfolder. All right.
CD space.
Okay.
Period. SSH.
Now I created a subfolder called .ssh. Now what this simulates is what your SSH folder should look like.
Enter widget Lewis.
Now, if it doesn't already exist, it'll get created by the keygen if you just take the default scenarios, and then you can rename the files later on if you want, or you can do it the way I'm going to do it, which I'm just going to go ahead and create it, and then you can copy it there manually. Okay, let's begin. first thing, like you'll see here, I've got in here a few files.
S, enter, config ID underline Lewis dash I9 ID underline Lewis dash I9 dot pub, widget Lewis dash I9 colon tilde slash project slash SSH dash SFtp dash git dash line slash dot SSH dot.
Okay. So
EXPLO.
it's a lot easier when I do it this way, so you can hear it.
Rare.exe.
I typed in explorer.exe, I do space,
Period. Enter, widget Lewis dash I9 colon tilde slash project slash SSH dash SFtp dash git.
Okay, now I've got Explorer open. I'll go to the top.
ID underline config, 1 of 3.
First file is config. This is your configuration file. We're going to be looking at that in detail.
ID underline Lewis dash I9, 2 of 3.
And then ID Lewis I9. I named it this one that I created already using the keygen.
ID underline Lewis dash I9 dot pub, 3 of 3.
And then I9 Lewis 9. This is the name that I chose for my computer, my desktop computer. If I do my laptop, it would be something else. Okay. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is I'll go ahead and delete
ID underline Lewis dash I9, 2 of 3.
files.
Config, 1, ID underline Lewis dash I9, 2. Delete file dialog, are you sure UI? To activate, press space. Config, 1 of 2, ID underline Lewis dash I. Y. To activate, press config.
Okay, now I only got one file. I'm going to go ahead and close
Alt F4.
Explorer.
Widget Lewis dash I9 colon tilde slash CL. EAR, enter, widget Lewis dash I9 colon tilde slash project slash SSH dash SFtp dash git dash line.
Okay, I want to go back to the README file now, and I'm going to get the keygen command.
Control Windows right arrow, desktop 2, Lewis. No more headings at level 4 in section.
Okay.
blindheroes.org blog article heading level 1.
Okay, it talks about the blog error.
SSH key generation heading level 2.
Now we're going to do the key generation.
I will generate a key using the command below colon tilde tilde dollar SSH dash keygen dash TF home. Space. W. Send mail link Lewis. I will generate heading level 2 SSH key generation. I will generate a key using the command below colon tilde tilde dollar home. Space. I. Send mail link Lewis at Gmail. I will generate a key using the command below colon tilde tilde dollar SSH space S.
Okay.
Sierra.
See, I got to grab that SSH.
S. Selected. SH. Select dash. Select keygen. Select dash. Selected. T. Selected. Ed 25519. Selected.
That's the encryption method.
Dash. Selected. C. Selected. Quote. Selected. Send mail link Lewis at Gmail. Selected. Period. Selected. Com. Select quote. Selected. Copied. Control Windows left arrow. Desktop 1. Widget Lewis dash I9 colon tilde slash project slash SSH dash SF.
Okay, I've copied it now.
Widget Lewis dash I9 colon tilde.
That a little bit. Okay, now I'm at the command prompt. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paste it. Now for me in the terminal, it's Control Shift V.
Control Shift V. SSH dash keygen dash TF 25519 dash C quote Lewis Widget G enter. Generating public slash private ed 25519 key pair. Enter file in which to save the key left paren slash home slash wood slash dot SSH slash ID.
Now if I left it alone, it would save it in the default directory, which I'm not going to do. So I'm going to call it
LEWIS dash I9.
Okay. In fact, we'll call this one
9.
I8. How about that?
Enter. Enter passphrase left paren empty for no passphrase right paren colon.
Okay, now passphrase. What that means basically is you can create this for a desktop computer at my home. It's not a big deal. I don't really need one because somebody would have to actually steal my computer and figure out my password on my computer and everything like that, and then steal it. But if I had a laptop and I was going out and about, then I would probably want the passphrase because somebody could steal the laptop, figure out my PIN number, and then go in there and then mess a whole bunch of stuff up. Okay? And if I was working on high security stuff, I'd have to use a passphrase all the time anyway. So I'm just going to press enter.
Enter. Enter same passphrase again colon. Enter. Your identification has been saved in Lewis-I8. Your public key has been saved in Lewis-I8.pub. The key fail. S. Enter. Config Lewis-I8 Lewis-I8.pub. Widget Lewis-I9 colon tilde slash project slash SSH dash S.
Okay, it's reading it to me. All right. And now we'll begin the next stage.
CLEAR. Enter. Widget Lewis. Alt P. This meeting is being recorded.
All right, let's see how it turned out. Let's see.
EXPLOR. ER.exe. Space. Period. Enter. Widget Lewis-I9 colon tilde slash project slash SSH dash SFtp dash git dash line slash dot SSH dollar. Dot not selected config 1 of 3.
Okay, that's config file.
Lewis-I8 2 of 3.
See, it's there. Lewis-I8.
Lewis-I8.pub 3 of 3.
There it is, .pub. All right, so I did get the files created.
Alt F4. Widget.
Now, the discussion on this. Now, see these files, technically, you want to put them in the default folder. On the default folder location is, when they tell you, it's in the tilde.
Graph. Graph. Tilde.
The tilde.
Slash.
Dot.
Period.
SSH.
H.
Okay.
H.
So here, I'll go ahead
Space.
and show you what my folder looks like.
L. S. Space.
Now, I go like that. I'm doing ls.
Tilde.
Tilde
Slash. Period.
SSH.
H. Slash. Star.
Alright.
Enter. /home/wood/.sh/config/home/wood/.sh/id _ ed 25519.pub/home/wood/.sh/id_RSA:/zone.identifier /home/wood/.sh/id _ ed 25519 /home/wood/.sh/id _ RSA/home/wood/.sh/known hosts Lewis-I9 :
Now you see, I have those files is already there. Now going through I went through the keygen and I did it as a default, and I already created them and I just left them the way they are. All right, because I've already got the configurations working. I didn't bother renaming them or anything. Okay, but for the purpose of the tutorial, I have done this here. Now, if you want to know what that tilde /.ssh is, actually the tilde means home and your username. So if I wanted to do the same thing, I go ls
space
/h
home
home
/lwood period /ssh star.
See, I just did /home /Elwood, because that's my user ID on this computer, /.ssh ****.
Enter /home/wood/.sh/config/home/wood/.sh/id _ ed 25519.pub/home/enter widget Lewis-I9.
So you can tell that it did the exact same thing.
CLEAR enter widget Lewis-I9:tilde/project/s.
I don't know why I clear when I just do. Yeah, they really don't see it that well, but I can tell that something's up there. Okay. Now what we got is we got the files created. Now, typically, if you created them like I just did right here, or let's say you downloaded them from someplace, because like if you had the website create them, well, especially when you get somebody else to create your files, you're going to have to do what's called a change mode. So here, watch this. I'll do it.
CHMOD.
Okay, change mod. I'm going to modify the rights.
Space.
And I'm going to give it the 700 right. Well, I'm going to do the Unix commands thing, which is 4 digits.
0700.
Okay. 700 basically says you're the only one that has access, the owner of it, me. So it would be just me. Nobody else can access this file. Only I can. All right. That is a requirement for some SFtp protocols and stuff. So you have to do that. All right. Now, then
Space.
I'm just going to do an asterisk
Star.
here. And that would just basically do that to all these files.
Enter widget Lewis-I9:tilde/project/sftp-git-line/.sh$.
So that gives me exclusive access to it, to the files. Okay. Now, what you do is you want to create a file for your host, so that way you can use everything conveniently. Otherwise, you got to remember the whole big long key. For example, I'll show you what the keys look like.
NOTE pad.exe space ID underline L. Enter. Untitled-notepad. Untitled-notepad. No button. To activate, press space bar. Alt F4.
Okay.
N.
I gotta go no.
Alt F4.
I did it wrong.
Escape.
Right, 1 second.
Widget Lewis -i9:/project/ssh-sftp-get-line/.e
Here, I'll just do it this way.
or .exe space period enter widget Lewis
Okay, I got it up in Explorer here.
-i9:project/ssh-sftp-get-line/ssh
This makes it easier to get to the files. Okay, I'm going to go down.
Items view multi-select list box. Not Lewis-i8.pub 3 of 3.
There's the pub one. Now, it's just like any file. It's going to have a thing I'm going to do.
Applications. Context menu. To navigate, press up or down arrow.
Now I'm going to press the letter H for open with.
H. Open with submenu. H. Notepad. N. Enter.
Okay,
Context
I
menu. To
selected
navigate, press left or right arrow. Leading menus. Lewis-i8.ssh-at
It's a
25,005.
bunch of nonsensical thing. It's what we have. Now in GitHub, you're going to find out you have to go all the way to the end and copy
SSH-at25
it.
blank. Space. Blank. M.
Yeah, see?
Mike.
And that's what you're going to end up having to copy later on, which I'll show you. All right, and the other one.
.ssh. Items view multi.
Now the other file, which is just without the .pub, that's the other part of the key. These two keys will be compared together, and they become your secure password.
Lewis-i8 2 of 3.
Now, how do you get all these things to work? You know, I can copy this into my my SSH directory, but then you have to use a file. But you don't have to keep them in your .ssh directory.
Config 1 of 3.
Now the config. This is the powerful file. This is power. It's going to let you do your FTP and your GitHub and any other thing that you use things for.
Applications. Context menu. To navigate, press up or down arrow. O.
Okay, I'm going to open
H.
with.
Leading menus. .ssh. Items view multi-select list box. Config 3/5/2. List box. List box notepad. To move to an item, press the arrow.
Okay, I'm selecting Notepad to open this file with, the config file.
Enter.
You can open it with whatever you want to
Config
open it
dash
with.
notepad.
I prefer to do Notepad because it's quick and easy. You just need a text area.
Blank.
Okay, now the structure of this file basically is it starts with a host name, a reference name that you use for yourself. So they put it in square brackets, and then you have your host name. Then after that, you have your actual host name.
Host blintheroes.org.
See, it says here host.
Blintheroes. Host. Blintheroes. Host. Blank. H. O. S. T. Space. B. L. I. N. D. Blank. Blank. Host blintheroes.org. Hostname equals ftp.jrt.pqa.myblehost.me. Home. Hostname.
Okay, now it says host name, but you notice I've got just, it's called host.
Hostblintheroes.org.
Host space blindheroes.org. That means I can reference all this.
Hostname equals ftp.
By referencing blindheroes.org, it will give me all this information for the user ID and everything like that when I'm doing SSH. Okay, but the technical actual name is this nonsensical name, which I don't want to
Hostname
know.
equals ftp.jrt.pqa.myblehost.me.
So if I really want to do the FTP to the entire website, I have to remember all this long key. By the way, for those people that can't see, I have modified this file, so it's not my actual thing. So
Blank.
and okay, so
Hostname equals ftp.jrt.pqa.myblehost.me. Blank.
so you got the FTP address for it.
User equals sort my.
Then you got the username, the technical username that you got to use for the upper level.
Identity file equals //.ssh.
Now I got the identity file.
End. 9.
And I see.
Password identity file equals //.ssh/id _ Lewis-i9.
You see, I told it to use that one, I9. Since it's in the default directory, you know.
I9 dash Lewis _ ID /SSH.
You see, I
ID
put it where it was, and I pointed directly to it.
_ Lewis dash I9 end.
Now, see, if I did it now, because we renamed the files, I would actually be I8.
9 blank 8.
There we go.
Password authentication no.
I said, nope, don't want no password authentication. Don't ask me for a password because you don't need to.
Blank. Hostgithub.com.
Now, this is my second host. And I remember indentation is important in this file. The beginning is where it's there and the other items are below it. And that's how it all refers to it. So this one says
blank. Hostgithub.com.
github.com. So this way, anytime I reference github.com, it's going to do it. And if you got the reference addresses that we've got, they're GitHub's addresses, okay, .com.
Hostname equals github.com.
Okay, and the host name is github.com, so it's the same thing.
User equals lewiswood@gmail.com.
And there
Identity file equals //.ssh/id _ Lewis-I9. End.
I'm having to use 8.
9.
We just generated an 8. There you are. So I would do an 8.
Blank. Password authentication no.
And I don't do password authentication.
Blank. Blank. Host star.
Now host space star, that's for a wildcard for any host. This is what you're going to do generically.
Add keys to agent, yes.
So telling it to add the keys to the agent. Agent helps keep track of your passphrases. It'll re-ask them every so often. So for like 30 days or something, whatever it's configured for, it won't ask you for the passphrase again for a while. You know, it just keeps you from having to do it all the time.
Identity file //.ssh/id _ 25,519.pub.
Now there's a definition, so you can have it to use a default identity file. Now it's the pub. It shouldn't be the pub ever.
N-B-U-P. Period.
So I clean that up. There you go.
Identity file //.add keys to agent, yes.
Yeah.
Identity file //.ssh/id _ add 20. Identity file //.ssh/id _ 25,519.
There we go.
Add keys to agent, yes. Identity file
Okay, that's the end of the file there. Now save that.
Control S.
Now that's the configuration file. Now that you got that all configured and we're done.
Alt F4. .ss.
Assuming that you went ahead and did the copy command.
C-L-E-A.
Oops.
Escape.
What's it asking?
Enter. How do you want to open this file? Escape. Config.
Oh, I'm still in the Explorer. Sorry.
Alt F4. Widget Lewis-I9:/ C-L-E-A-R. Enter.
Okay, I'm back at the
Lewis-I9.
prompt. Okay, now the beauty of it, since we've got this and we've got a config file configured and we've got the pubs, and let's say I did the CP command
Space.
and I copy the
ID
underline
star
asterisk files, and I wanted to copy them to
tilde
slash
period
SSH
slash
star files
star slash.
Well, I don't need that. I just did it that way. Then I can just copy it to the .ssh folder, and these files would appear there. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to.
Space.
All right, so now we got it all configured. Now we can play with it. That concludes part 1 of 2, SSH Key Pairs. And I hope you now understand about the private part of the lock and the public part of the lock. The two fit together to form a key. And that's how you have security. And if you like this video, be sure to click like or subscribe. It helps other people find the videos. But move on to part 2 of 2, and there I will teach you about how to implement the SSH keys and put them into your SFtp and your GitHub, and then how you can access them, and I'll show you how it works. All of it goes together, and I'll even give a brief overview of how Git works altogether. This is in no way a tutorial of SFtp, or will it be a tutorial of GitHub or Git. It is simply showing you how to use your SSH key. Okay, thank you very much for watching.